Welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of Health Talks with Dr. Tran. The one show, maybe the only show, showing you the path to a healthier life, one conversation at a time. And today, well, we started the conversation offline. I told everybody, stop. This is good stuff here. Let's continue this on here. So, Dr. Tran, let's pick up where you guys were talking here. Start by introducing our guest today here.
Yes, this is her recurrent guest here. She was here, was it during the pandemic, Catlin? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was it a year and a half or 2 years ago? It was like right at the beginning, I feel, of the pandemic, or a little bit.
Yeah, where we came on the show here and we talked about Nutripair.
Yeah. You were an advisor, and I think we were connected through email.
Yes, through the Innovation Center. And we're here to kind of learn how Nutripair has kind of blossomed since our first chat. But even before that, we're actually chatting about Vietnam, because I was telling Catlin that she's like the new generation of Vietnamese, and folks like myself were the first generation because we were the refugees. Mm-hmm. We're the ones that kind of ran from the war and were refugees from the war. And she Catlin and like my daughter Lizzie and our son, they're like the new generation of Vietnamese.
I thought that was interesting because I love Catlin's perspective on that. But at some point, and this is typical for most Americans, we came here as refugees for the most part, most of us. There's some Native Americans, but for the most part, most of us came as refugees from somewhere. In my own case, it was 100 years or 200 years, 150 years ago in the great famine in Ireland. A third of the population died, a third of them fled, and a third of them stayed. And this was the 1840s. This was the first mass migration into America here. We were the first unwelcome, unwanted, unwashed immigrants who suddenly flooded over here because of some crisis. A generation or two later, people are saying, what's Ireland? I don't even know. I have no connection to that. I don't speak Irish. I don't know anything. I sort of hear the distant stories of what happened, but I'm an American. My only experience is here. What is it like to be that next generation, those who you were raised here? You don't, maybe you've never even been to Vietnam or don't speak Vietnamese anymore here. You hear the stories of how they came here, but it seems like some distant tale from 100 years ago. Talk about that for a second.
Wait, first of all, Paul, she speaks better Vietnamese than I do.
And that's a sad reality, because you still say, we get people on the show, and one of the more common names is Nguyen, Nguyen, and he still says Nguyen, like I did a long time ago.
Come on.
He still mispronounces names from Vietnam, and he's a refugee for Pete's sake, from the country. Yeah.
What age did you come over here, or when? Okay, so you probably barely remember Vietnam at all then.
I remember a lot, but 5-year-old Vietnamese is my language.
Yeah.
When you came here, did your parents just stop teaching you Vietnamese and just say, we're in America now, you're going to learn English?
No, I still speak Vietnamese to my parents. It's just that, you're just immersed in English all day. And Saturday morning was Saturday morning cartoons, and it was all in English, and that's how I learned my English. I've been on a few TV shows in Vietnamese, and Catlin was actually my translator.
I had a very good friend of mine whose parents fled from Nazi Germany, and they were Dutch, and they fled the Germans' invasion. And his grandfather came over, and his parents spoke some Dutch because he couldn't speak English. He was an adult when he came over here. But he would speak this real broken English, and he refused to let anybody speak Dutch in his presence, even though he barely understood English. He said, "We are American now." He just felt, once we're here, and he insisted on everybody trying to speak, and they would always try and speak to him in Dutch because that's really the only language he lost. But I thought that was interesting, that just severing of the tie. Tell that story again, Dr. Tran. You've told it before. I mean, you literally were airlifted out. You're one of those images we see, that the last helicopters taking off and the people, literally the sad people hanging on. Please don't leave. Take me. And they're hanging onto you were one of the last helicopters out of Saigon, right?
Yeah, we flew out the day before the end of the war. End of the war was April 30th, 1975, and I was airlifted along with my siblings and
I
mom.
mean, the regime is collapsing. The communists have
April
won.
29th.
And the Americans are pulling out, and they're
Mhm.
taking with them anybody they can grab onto this. And literally,
That was
people,
us.
yeah. I mean, that's just such a heartbreaking image. How did your parents get on one of the last flights? I mean, that was,
My dad spoke English and was a translator for the Americans during the war, and as a result of that, we knew that when the war ended, he would have been persecuted with our family.
yeah,
We were
for
given that ticket.
cooperating with the Americans here, for collaborating with the Americans here. So,
Absolutely.
so he
But
was,
anyway, Caitlin was telling us that your grandfather worked there at the airport.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of this, it hits really close to home for me, even though I've only been to Vietnam once, and that was in 2018, 2019. But I live with my grandparents and I live with my mom. I was raised by them. And
right.
so I know Vietnam from their perspective. And both my grandparents used to work at the airport Tân Sơn Nhất.
Mm,
So my grandpa was the air traffic controller, and my grandma also worked around in that area. So they were living in the airport villages, I think that's what it was at the time. And then when the regime collapsed, they were kicked out. That's when they really had to start over. And they didn't leave in 75. I think a couple years later, my grandpa was one of the boat people. So him and my two uncles escaped to one of the neighboring countries on the little boat. And then they flew over to America. And then after 10 years, sponsored the rest of my aunts, my mom, and my grandma over.
I mean, that's just an
wow.
amazing American tale. They got on a boat. The boat people were even more amazing because these little
Yeah.
boats they knew couldn't go very far into the ocean. They were
Mhm.
hoping, they were assuming that when they got out of the territorial water, if they were still alive, that somebody would pick them
Yeah.
up. Somebody's out there. Somebody will grab us. Let's just get in any little creaky little boat and we'll float out into the ocean, hoping there's a ship out there that will pick us up. And in the meantime, the Vietnamese, the now communist regime, is shooting anybody that goes out in a boat. Don't you take off. We'll go out and shoot you if you go out in one of those little boats here. I mean, it was a very death-defying attempt, desperation to get out of the country here. So here you are now, the epitome of an American. If I closed my eyes, I wouldn't know you're Vietnamese. There's no trace of accent or whatever here. You look like everybody in America here today, and you did what everybody in your generation is doing. You started a business in college. I mean, that to me is the American success story. Here you are. You're what, third generation now? You're the third generation. So your grandfather escaped. Your parents were the foot in both worlds, and you're firmly planted here at UCI, and now you've graduated and you're on to your new business here. You are the epitome of the American success story. You are, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that journey. Why be an entrepreneur? Why not just go to UCI and get a degree and work for, I don't know, some giant corporation here?
Yeah, I think that was a great segue into from my family, my upbringing, our tradition to why I chose to do what I do.
Right.
Because like you said, the traditional way of doing things is to go into corporate or to go into medicine or to go into any other field and pursue higher or even more higher education.
Right.
And that's what my mom did. So my mom is in pharmacy, and my whole life that's what I thought I wanted to do because I just saw my mom as this like amazing figure that I wanted to embody and be when I grew older.
And that's what your
And
grandparents dreamed of, could only hope for as they left in this start over again with nothing. And we're going to make it in America, in a country we don't know and don't speak the language. And wow, maybe because this is the land of opportunity, maybe our child will rise up and do something. And most Vietnamese are imbued with this. Well, you got to be a doctor. You got to be something big. You got to do something spectacular. We sacrificed everything to get here. Don't let us down. And so that's what your mom did. And now you come along, you're a typical American kid. I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to start something. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, because to me, the definition of success, there's so many definitions of it. And I feel like as a culture, maybe we have created borders or boundaries around what we view as success. And
Yeah.
so Yeah, and so when it comes to breaking out of that bridge, also, I see that there's not a lot of Vietnamese young women building their own business or going into a more male-dominated industry, and it's very daunting because you don't see anyone like you doing this. And
Yeah,
it was
right.
tough, and it's still tough to explain to my family what I do exactly. But they didn't come over to America for nothing. They didn't come over to America for me to be another cog in someone's wheel.
Wow.
And so I feel like it's my responsibility to really make an impact on not only my family's efforts, but they didn't come over in that creaky little boat for nothing. And so I really
Amen.
want to
I
take
mean,
it upon myself.
I'm going to replay this over and over again. They didn't come over for nothing. They came over to the land of opportunity. I don't want to sound too corny, but I think that's what most of us believe still America is. And you're the epitome of that opportunity. You're a young Vietnamese woman going off on your own, making your way in the world here after graduating from a prestigious university here, choosing a path that wasn't laid out for you at birth, your own path, your own way, your own impact. You're all officially Americans here. You're the epitome of Americans. If there is anything that makes America great, and I truly believe there is, it's this immigrant story. It's this success, this from nothing to something. They didn't come over for nothing. I think you've epitomized. All right, so now that we've done the patriotic story and and you got me all teary-eyed here, tell us, what the heck is Nutripair? If your parents don't understand it, how are we going to understand it here?
Well, my grandparents speak only Vietnamese, so maybe
Okay.
maybe that's it.
And it's lost in
Maybe I'm not doing my
translation. Yeah,
best
right.
for translation. Yeah. But Nutripair, our main mission is to help people find the best foods for all their dietary needs. So let's say you have a food intolerance, gluten, peanuts, and you're trying to dine out at a restaurant in your local area, or if you're traveling, we'll help you find that restaurant and find exactly what menu items fit your dietary needs. So we're able to help the end user, but also there's a business part of it, the local businesses that we're able to help. So for example, the local Vietnamese restaurants who maybe they don't speak a lot of English and they want to bring in a more diverse group of customers. We can help them as well. And so we're able to lift the food accessibility on both ends of the spectrum.
So I got to say, again, just like your story touches me, this app touches me because I think I said the last time my wife suffers from one of these food allergies. She's very allergic to anything lactose. And she's not just intolerant. She doesn't get an upset stomach. She breaks out in cysts, these little sores that pop up and everything. Some of them are huge. And so the first time I saw it, I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my God, the cyst erupts. And they tend to appear in her face, not her back or whatever here. And so she has to constantly go through all the layers of the ingredients. And every time we go to a restaurant, people are groan and here he goes again. All right, does that have any dairy? Does that have any butter in it? And the waiter or waitress goes, I don't know. And then they come back. I said, well, go check, because sometimes they fry it with butter or they add butter somewhere in there. And they usually come back and say, oh my God, there is some butter in there. I didn't know, and it's already in there. So we have to go through this whole laborious research each and every time she goes out to restaurants. It's embarrassing, but it's something we've just got used to doing, because otherwise the result is she gets sick.
Yeah, and that story honestly is the reason why we do what we do, because when you're in a group setting, especially, it's so difficult when you don't know what that restaurant does contain or does not contain.
Right.
Or let's say you're traveling. Like how do you approach it when you guys are going to travel?
I have taken the lead now. I'm the guy that breaks it up. So as soon as the waiter or waitress comes up, I say, all right, here's what our problem is. My wife's very and she's very intelligent. She doesn't just get an upset stomach here. So we're going to add, she's looking at this, she's looking at this. What do you think? And we kind of have a sense for some of this stuff comes pre-made. She likes calamari, fried calamari. Well, sometimes they'll put cheese on. I don't know why. They always sprinkle cheese all over it when it comes out. We're just used to seeing. So I say, make sure there's no cheese. And I can't tell you, about 50% of the time, if we've never been there, they say, got it. And they come out and there's a little cheese sprinkled all over it. And we say, hey, come on back. Hey, we said no cheese, send it back. And so we go through this because she's hesitant to go into this and embarrassed about it. I just grab the bull by the horn and start. But it's amazing. People go out to dinner with us. Look, I mean, I immediately start grilling them about all this and instructing them what it is, and go double check if there's any doubt and come back. because we just can't afford a mistake.
Hmm.
So if
Yeah,
you have to
and
be that kind of aggressive. And here's what shocks me. Most of the servers don't know. Nobody's ever asked what's in the food that detailed. And they usually go, no, it's fine. And then they come back and they go, oh, I didn't realize, yeah, there's something in there. Or they get mistakes. They think, well, they come back and they say, well, there's mayo in there. I said, mayo's not from a cow. Everybody thinks it's a dairy product, but it's not from a cow. Anything from a cow, she has potential problems with. So if we could go in advance and do this act, oh, what a salvation that would be.
yeah, and it's when you brought up the training, the allergy training, a lot of the times, and especially since COVID, the budget for restaurants or their margins have been so low that they have not been able to afford proper training for
Right.
all their servers, and they're short staffed, which makes it even tougher for you to get that seat time that you need with the waitress or the waiter helping you out. So that's why Nutripair exists, though, because we found that it's so difficult to have transparency within all these restaurants, especially different types of cuisines too. For example,
Yeah.
Mexican food, Vietnamese, Chinese, who knows what's in it when it's not in English sometimes.
Yeah.
And so somebody needs to help out. And right now, technology is such, it's so sophisticated now that we can utilize it, and everyone's got a phone. So why don't we use it to make our lives easier, especially for those who need a little extra help?
So let me give you, I know Dr. Trin's got some questions, but let me give you one testimonial from a potential user of your app here. Why would restaurants care? We've been to restaurants and they kind of look like, you're kind of a pain in the butt. Why don't you go away? We got a million other customers here. I don't know what's in it, and just eat it, or you want it or don't you? We don't go back. We don't go back to those restaurants if they don't take this seriously or don't seem interested in helping us, or they roll their eyes, or it's a big, hey, we got 47. In the days when there's lines out the block, maybe they didn't care about us. Maybe they could throw us away. Next, we'll take a faster, easier customer. Those days have gone away. Restaurant traffic is down. It's harder to hold on to customers, all that kind of stuff. So you're missing out a potential audience. There are more and more people with peanut allergies, dairy allergies, all these things, gluten allergies. If you just say, who cares? I'll go for the mass crowd. You're missing a very dedicated group. And on the flip side, those that do care, we patronize them all the time because we know it's safe and we know they care. So there you go, restaurants. Why should I buy your app or whatever? How does this whole thing work? Do they have to get listed on your app? Do they have to pay to be on your app?
Yeah, so right now what we're doing is we're including all the restaurants who already have their allergens and nutritions, because we know they're the ones that care.
Right.
And we post all their information on our platform. So what we're essentially doing is I don't know what the right word is, but we're aggregating. We're aggregating all the available information of local restaurants into one easy to use platform, so you don't have to go searching through all these different sites.
Right. But how do you make money? Let's talk about the business here. What's the business side of it? Is it just, do you charge restaurants to be listed? Do you sell the app and make money that way? Do you run commercials? What is it that is the profit potential in this operation for you?
A little bit of both. So on one end, on the actual app, the user-facing side of it, we have two different tiers. We have a free tier, we have a premium tier. So with free, we still make sure that accessibility is at our forefront. But with the premium, you get a little bit of extra help. So that's that. And then on the restaurant side, there's enhanced listings. You know how on Yelp you have the sponsored posts, like before you even are able to scroll down to the actual results, you have at least 5 sponsored posts before that.
Right.
That's the enhanced listing that will offer us an advertising incentive for the restaurant. But yeah, that's so as of right now, those are the monetization offers that we have going on. But of course, as we continue to build our business, there's more streams that are going to come in.
And how did you come up with this idea? That's the obvious question. Do you have an allergy, or do you know somebody that has an allergy?
I don't, but in my family, we have a couple that have dietary preferences. So there's people with vegetarians, there's people who are pescatarian. And even though it's not a specific dietary requirement, it's still a big preference. They'll still get sick if they eat meat because they haven't been eating meat for such a long time. And it's difficult to coordinate with the rest of my family because there's some of us that still do eat meat or still do eat fish.
Right.
And so I found that it's tough for us to all find or come to a consensus on where to find the best foods. And then also down the line, my mom ended up getting breast cancer. And so then that migrated a whole other field of foods that are out of our diet. And so then it comes to, well, how do we all enjoy each other's company and still keep up our social lives with each other while dining out, going out with our friends, and not having such a, like you said, a pain in the butt when doing that every single time.
And my wife is
You know
also
there's a cancer diet? Did you know there's an anti-cancer diet?
I did not.
Yeah, there's some good books there. I'll get you those books, Caitlin.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And there is a diet that minimizes the risk for cancer, and there's some good strategies that are evidence-based that those with cancer can, like, go around and decide which restaurants to eat or what dishes to eat. That's really good info.
So again, if restaurants could take the extra time to lay out their ingredients, to lay out their what's available, you've got a newfound audience. You've got Caitlin's mother, you got my wife, you got people who are otherwise not going out to eat or only going to the same place to eat because they have issues. And if you can roll your eye and say, well, I don't want to do that. I want to be fast food. Do you want it or don't you? But even on fast food, people are also wanting to know how much fat is in it. Do you guys do that too? I don't want to eat the blooming onion or whatever it is at Outback Steakhouse that has 80 billion calories in it or something.
Yeah, we do. So we not only have allergens, but we have the nutrition and the macro, the micro breakdown as well. So we're doing our best to be all encompassing, but still we're working off of the information that the restaurant is providing us.
So
How far are you along now?
Yeah.
With the project? Do you have like a timeline or estimated timeline?
Yeah, so we just finished our first round of testing. So we opened up our exclusive access community 2 months ago, and they have been using the app. And we have around 10 to 15 restaurants on there, half our local, half our chains, just to see what people like more. Some that have all the allergies, some that have some of the allergies, and a lot of the nutrition information as well. But we tested with around 100 people, and the feedback has been really great so far. So we're closing that round off this week, actually. So tomorrow we're closing it, and we're taking a look back at all the analysis. And then around June, July time is when we'll be launching our second testing round with even more features and adding in the dietary preferences. So we're looking forward to that. And then hopefully in late fall is when we'll actually get to our launch, and that'll be the public launch. So everything before that has been private and smaller.
So you've graduated early from UCI. You said you don't take the walk until June, but you've graduated a semester early. Was there an impulse, you got to make money, to just go get a job while you're working on your dream? Or is this dream your full-time job and somehow you're sustaining yourself while you're building this?
Yeah, it's with everyone around me getting jobs and internships and things like that. There's a lot of, I don't want to call them distractions, but there's a lot of noise.
Right.
And there's a lot of ways, or I don't want to say stereotypical ways either, but it's just the standard path for a college student when they graduate is to go get a job, to go and, start getting health insurance from a larger corporation, right? And that is something that has been conflicting in my head ever since I started Nutripair. But if I really think about it, this is the only time that I truly have to fully dedicate myself towards a company like this. There's no better time than now, because if I wait until I'm ready, then this opportunity is it's going to fly away.
You don't have a house payment. You don't have 3 kids. You don't have a mortgage or whatever else. You're relatively unencumbered. You can take risks at this point in time. 10 years from now, 5 years from now, who knows? You may have a whole set of other priorities. I'd love to work in this, but I got to get little Timmy his new braces or something.
Yeah. And the best thing about working on Nutripair has actually been talking to older mentors or more experienced advisors. But I've been able to, I would say, vicariously live through everyone else's perspectives and gain all these different viewpoints on why I should be building this business now. Because if I don't, then in the future, I'm going to have kids or I'm going to have a house. And it's just the time is never going to be right again. And the market isn't going to be right again either.
Oh.
And that's why when I was at UCI, and the Entrepreneur Center was helping me a lot with getting the business started. And so I wanted to give back and help some of the students out as well. But one of my biggest tips for any young entrepreneurs or any college students is do it now, because people love to support college students. And if you fail now, people are not even going to look at it as a failure. They're going to see it as a bunch of lessons learned at a young age.
Yeah, I think corporations would view that positively. You took a chance, you developed something, you learned something. You're not just a newbie right off the UCI assembly line here who doesn't know anything about business or anything. You've had to run a budget, you've had to do marketing, you've had to do testing, you've had to do various things that probably make you even more appealing. So what do you got to lose? What do you think, Dr. Tran? You were assigned to her through the Wayfinder program or through the Entrepreneur Center, because you're all ants, anteaters. Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah, we connected. I love the energy, and I love the health perspective, obviously. And it's much needed, because in this world, we are addicted to food and the wrong foods.
The wrong food,
and the unhealthy foods, and the food that promotes inflammation. You got sugar and everything. And so this app, Nutripair, is a solution to get around all the health effects that we see today as a physician, right? The folks that come in to our office, diabetes, hypertension, Alzheimer's, even cancer, whatever it is, right? A lot of it is lifestyle related. Not everything, but a lot is lifestyle related. And a huge part of that is nutrition. And,
it's living health. It's what you put into your body starting with.
We are what we eat.
We are what we eat.
Food is not just food. Food is medicine, and food is information, right? What we eat is information for our body, for our genes, for our genetic codes. And it tells our genes, turn on these set of genes, turn off these set of genes, right? What you eat is really practically information to activate certain genes and inactivate certain genes. So we need Nutripair for this reason, because otherwise we're just out there eating whatever these corporations make, and and they're not for your health, they're for the profit line, right? Exactly. And so Nutripair really provides a solution for that.
Any success stories you can tell us to date? Have you? I don't even know if you've launched yet. Is the app up? Can I go get it today and try it, or is it still in beta testing somewhere here?
We're still in private testing. So we just finished our first round of testing. So we're taking a quick pause. We're making some iterations, changing some of the features. And then if you want, you can sign up for our exclusive access community, though. I can drop the link in the chat.
Let's do that.
So that you can...
Dr. Tran can type this into the Facebook group here.
So if you sign up on here, once we approach our next testing round, which will be around middle to end of summer, we'll send you an email to invite you to the community, and then you'll have access to the platform for around a month. Provide us feedback, and then in late fall, that's when we're anticipating our launch.
When did
that's public.
When did you learn to be so savvy? You've instantly got your logo up on the Zoom call. When you say we're taking a pause, you even know where to point to it. You knew exactly where to point to it on the virtual screen here. When you say we're taking a pause, that might go, oh yeah, that's a pause. That makes me think this thing isn't going anywhere. She said, a quick pause. You build in the right verbiage all the way along. We're taking a quick pause here. You're very on point. You're very on message. You're very brand conscious. I wasn't brand conscious when I graduated from college. I was just ready for the next beer bong or whatever here. I was ready for the next. I wasn't any savvy to any of that stuff here. It took me. I was shocked as I got into business how clear your message has to be, how consistent you have to be, how much you're always representing the brand at all times here. All of that. Where did you learn that? Is that just in the DNA these days, or is that something they taught you at the Entrepreneur Center, or Dr. Tran? Who turned you into this brand conscious person here?
I think it's a culmination of everything, but just about brand. My background is actually a restaurant. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that.
Did you notice that?
I missed that
it's a blurred out restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, those are like tables, but anyways, there's a culmination of everything, I feel like. In my family, when I grew up, I just feel like I've always had to make sure my message was very clear communicating wise and translating wise that in my language, I've just gotten used to it. So I think that growing up in my family has definitely helped me with that. And the entrepreneur center certainly helped me out with understanding what marketing is and the business school as well on how to communicate that visually to users and to the public. But I feel that everybody has a certain skill set that they're good at. Maybe I'm not great at writing code, but I love doing branding and I love doing marketing and making sure that my message is clear to people. And so at least within a company, I think it's really important to find the right people to do the right things and be in the right seats. And in my position, this is what I do. This is what I love doing. And I have other people on our team who take care of different things that I might not be so skilled at.
So let me tell you, having spent most of my life as a storyteller and for many years in public relations as a corporate storyteller, the two things I always tell people about brand. There's many ideas about what a brand is. It's a promise you're making to your customer, and you've got all this stuff. My two takeaways always is you got to be consistent. You got to say the same thing all the time. You can't describe it one way one day and another way another day. Then they're confusing. It's got to be consistent, and it's got to be persistent. You got to say it the same way, every way you can think of. Here, there. I'm still an old believer in branded T-shirts and stuff here, all this stuff. The brand. It's everywhere, and it always says the same thing, looks the same thing, sounds the same. It's simple, it's clear, and it's consistent, and it's persistent. So just keep that in mind as you go for it. I think you're already there. It's just such a simple thing to do, but it's so important, particularly when you're launching, because people are like, what is it? What do they do? Where does it go? And any confusion, if it looks different, sounds, they'll think it is different, and you'll lose them. So consistent, persistent. Yeah.
So describe how you came up with the name Nutripair.
Yeah. So if you split the word in half, you see nutri, which in long form is nutrition, and then pair for pairing. So in a sense, what Nutripair really does is we pair you with the best foods for your nutritional needs. So it's simple. It's nutrition pairing, and we kind of split the words in half and just put them together, and that's how it worked. And then we have the pair logo here, and there's 3 puzzle pieces because we're trying to fit all of your needs and be at the intersection of your taste preference, your dietary preference, and your budget preference as well. So that's our holy trinity right there.
See, there she was waiting for you to ask that. There's some thought into this. She didn't just sit at a coffee shop one day and go, I don't know. We had somebody on one of your shows, Dr. Tran, and he said, truthfully, we just sat in a coffee shop and we went, I don't know, we're going to call it this. There wasn't a whole lot of thought or research into it. She's thought it out. I love a double entendres, double meanings. English has all these words that sound the same but mean something different. And so you've got the pair of pairing, and then the PEAR, the pair, the fruit, and it's the fruit of your efforts. You should say that too. This is the culmination, the fruit of our whole thought.
I'll keep that in mind.
The fruit of life, it's a healthy fruit, all that kind of, lots of positive images there that suggests. And yet it's simple. It's a logo that can be compressed and put on a T-shirt or put on a business card. Yeah, I think you've hit it on all those levels there.
So what do you need help with now?
Money, big investors, millions of dollars here. That's what she needs. Every entrepreneur needs.
Is it funding? Is it marketing plans? What are some of your gaps to move forward and all that?
Yeah, I would say there's 3 main needs that we're looking for. So one of them I already sent into the chat, which was getting users to be a part of the platform in our early stages. So joining that exclusive access community, that'll be amazing, because not only will you be able to shape the future of the app, but also you're building the app or you're influencing the app to meet your needs. So it's really a chance for us to engage directly with the people who we're building the platform for.
Okay, and that's one.
Yes, and then the second one is restaurants. So if you're a restaurant or a restaurant owner who wants to be listed on our platform, do you guys have my email? I'll send in my email to the chat as well. You can send me a quick message and we'll get you listed on our platform. And if you also have your allergens and nutrition information, that's perfect as well, because we want to help growing business, local businesses, newly opened businesses to gain as much traction as possible from a wider demographic of people that we have access to.
Okay.
So that's number 2. And then the third one, Paul, you brought it up. It's the investment.
Money.
But yes, it is. But the money needs to be used towards bringing on more highly skilled people to develop the platform because we want to build a very robust infrastructure and we need a lot of people with experience.
Yeah.
So a lot of the investment would be invested into building the actual platform itself and creating a machine that can be continuously used and add on into the future for years to come.
And what does it take roughly? What are you looking to raise in your first round here?
Is it mainly for IT, for the app development? Is that your main?
So the code doesn't break down. So it's you build a strong database that even if 1 million people log on, it won't crash and burn. Or
So our costs will be divided between IT software development, but also launching the platform too. So there's a marketing aspect to it, and then there's operational costs as well with all of our infrastructure and our daily needs. So that's the reason why we're looking for funding. But the amount right now is we're looking at $500,000 of pre-seed investment. So that's what we're shooting for. And we're hoping to find the right investor who will carry us into our future rounds of testing, but also to help us build our product and be a strong force, a part of the company in the long run.
You have an updated deck?
a pitch deck.
I do.
Of course she does.
Mm-hmm.
Send it over, email it over to us.
What?
Yeah, for sure.
What's the path to finding money? That's got to be the hardest part here. There's friends and family in the beginning, your grandpa, your cousins, somebody. They give you some little seeding to get you first going. But now you're looking, this is still pre-fund. This is, what do you use the term, I forgot what it is. But before you go out. Pre-seed. All right. So you're looking for angel investors, basically, people who are going to ride with you for a while. And then is the goal to take them out and eventually turn this into a public thing or a private company? What's the progression of this that you foresee?
Yeah. So I guess to bring it back to that initial question, the road to funding, right, that's always a tricky one.
Yeah.
So what we've been doing for the past 2 years now is completely bootstrapping. So all the resources around UCI or the UC or even in Orange County, we've applied to all these different competitions and these grants to gather up the money so that it's undiluted, so that we don't have to give any equity away.
Right. Because too often you do give it all away to the first $10,000. I'll give you 50% of the company if you just give me anything here. And then later on, the investors come in and say, well, you already gave away 50% of the company. I'm not going to invest in this.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've done our best to tap into all of the resources for funding and grants wise in the local area. And then the next step too is see if there's more grants, but then this is when the angel investors or the pre-seed, the smaller investment funds come into play. And so we need the two asks in the beginning that I asked for, which was the users and also the clients to further validate our company to then get the investment. So we're doing our best to move along that road path, but also bring in as much traction as possible to really validate our core product and our product market fit.
Yeah, if you've only got 4 restaurants on it, I may not invest. But if you got 4,000 or 400, it's a more robust platform and a more visible support for your concept here. Restaurants embracing it, people embracing it. So where are you at in those 2 quests? Do you have a robust group of restaurants and users playing with this right now?
So I would say we're working towards it. Right now, we've got around 100, 150 users who are signed up and waiting. And what we're doing right now, too, is releasing in geographical or specific geographical locations. So we're doing our best to make a robust community around Orange County first right now. So we're bringing a lot of the Orange County restaurants and putting them onto our platform. Same with the users. So we're doing our best to include as many of the local restaurants as possible and then expanding outward.
So can I give you 3 quick off the top of my head suggestions on how to find restaurants, having been a restaurateur at one point in my life here? A lot of restaurants belong to the National Restaurant Association, the NRA, and so they have meetings and stuff and everything here. If you approach them, they might help send the word out. They might even support this idea because it helps grow restaurant traffic for everybody or something here. They might be a resource. The second would be I'd go to all these taste competitions, the taste of Newport, the taste of Orange County, the taste of thing. Even if you just have a little booth there, all the restaurants come out. They love to show off what they're doing locally, and you get them all in a big group. They can see you, and you can go meet them. And the other one is I would join some chambers. Chambers, restaurants more than any group always join the chamber because they want a mixer at their place. Come over and taste it. Come over and see it. So every chamber we could join, we joined so that we could have people come in. And chambers are a great way to connect with. I'm just thinking we have, for example, the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce does a show with us. I'd say a third of the guests they bring in of their members to highlight what they're doing, a third of them are restaurants.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Paul. I'll take a look at all of these and see if we can do our best to
joining a
navigate them.
chamber isn't expensive, $40, $50, $100 or something. It's not a lot of money to join a chamber, but you get in front of restaurants and you get to meet them and connect with them rather than just walking in. Hey, can I see the owner? I've got a great app. We're too busy right now.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you approach. Restaurants are very hard to get to talk to because they're constantly in chaos. Great, but the machine just went down. The food isn't here. The customers are screaming. Other than that, you have to go in the afternoon or sometime when they're just doing their paperwork and try and get to meet them. Get in front of them in big ways and get them as part of this. This is a tool for you. And in the beginning, it sounds like, hey, it's free. What do you got to lose? Anything I can do. I think that's what the Uber Dashes of the world did and stuff. They went out to big restaurant groups and I don't know if they joined chambers, but they found ways to get big collections of restaurants together initially. And then, of course, chains, if you could approach any chains, if you could get Taco Bell or something, or I don't know, it may not be your target audience, but any chain support always adds validity to it. And they're often always looking for some differentiator because a lot of them have figured out at least the nutrition of all their foods because they've been requested to do this over and over again. And Orange County happens to be one of the largest concentrations of chain headquarters in America. Johnny Rockets, Taco Bell, Del Taco, on and on and on. There's all these chains that are headquartered here in Orange County, so you have access to them.
We should introduce her to Helene.
Yeah, right.
She's our mutual friend who was, until recent, the global vice president of marketing for Xerox.
Oh,
and not that has any direct connection, but she also is huge in the cannabis world. And there are more and more cannabis restaurants or cannabis cuisines or cannabis things that would love. They're fighting to get through and talk about the messages, what they're doing. And she knows everybody in the cannabis.
Just from a marketing perspective.
And marketing perspective too. Yeah. I mean, big brand.
Good one. If you need IT help, I can introduce you to like the physician scientists at Memorial Care and a few other good IT folks with that. But you probably need the funding to get some folks on board, right?
Dr. Tran can write a check for this. $500,000 is nothing. That's his lunch money for a week here.
Vietnamese dongs. I got 500,000 Vietnamese dongs.
Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah.
But I think that is always the challenge of keep the ship floating while you're still you're building the ship and yet you're out floating, and anything can sink the ship. And so you got to keep it going while you're growing and building all this stuff in place. You can't just sort of build it and then launch. That image of we'll sit in an incubator and then we'll come out, ta-da, there we are, and we're all ready to go. Quite often you're doing just what you're doing. You're floating the boat out of the dock and you're not even fully patched together here yet. You're not even sure where you're going, but you got to start rowing and going. And that's what you're doing here. So
and we've been lucky enough. Coming out of UCI has honestly brought so many different opportunities and benefits for having students join the team, or there's different programs that allow that as well. So there's been a lot of help there. And then also with things that are more expensive, like legal needs too, UCI has an awesome law clinic that they help out with pro bono services. So there's a lot of awesome opportunities for young entrepreneurs to at least get their businesses going at little to no cost in the Irvine, Orange County area, just because there's so many resources available. So I've been really spoiled with that.
Well, shout out to they call it the Antrepreneur, because you're all ant eaters. But in fact, we've got it scheduled coming up, the guy that runs the program, the Ant Eater Entrepreneur Center. And I'm stunned. I graduated the University of Michigan a million years ago. There were no entrepreneur programs. There was no entrepreneur center. Cal State Fullerton has a nice entrepreneur center. There's a bunch of these colleges, but particularly UCI, they're very focused. And then they have were you part of the Wayfinder program? Were you in that
So
program?
I was a part of, and I think who you're mentioning is Ryan Follin, right?
Yes, Ryan Fullen, exactly.
Yeah, Ryan's awesome. So I was working at the Entrepreneur Center, and then there was Ryan, and I went to Rev Hub OC.
That's
So
another one, RevHub, yeah, right.
I believe that they're in the Cove as well, and they were
They are?
partnered with Wayfinder at the time. So we were receiving resources from both, and then
Right.
I was over at Cal State Fullerton's incubator, and then there's some fellowships with Blackstone as well.
You hit all the highlights. All those people and more are all out trying to find ways to support young entrepreneurs and launch them. That's an ecosystem, a world that didn't exist when I was in college. College was there to teach you philosophy or French literature or engineering. It was not there to help you launch a business in any way, shape, or form. They wouldn't even talk about it. They didn't know anything about it. Places like UCI, that's a big appeal to what they're doing. They're not brainwashing you into thinking that you've got to go work for a major corporation when you graduate. You can work for yourself. And I think that's a big change in academia these days here.
Yeah, and coming from the business, I majored in business economics and I had a minor in management. So I was able to get the social sciences view of it and then the Paul Mirage view of it.
Yeah, right.
And
exactly.
it was very interesting learning it how it was textbook form and then taking tests, midterms, finals on business, and then actually running my own business outside of it.
Yeah.
There is a stark contrast.
Oh, yeah.
It is different. The information we learn is outdated. And so that's why we need to have an ecosystem that actually teaches young people how to accurately build a business in today's world instead of taking a look at a textbook and building it how it was in the 1900s.
I think the same thing is true with media today here. That's my common complaint with all these schools. UCI doesn't have a media. They don't have radio, television, and film and all this stuff, but a lot of colleges do. And what they're teaching is 20 years old. It's out of a textbook. Media is it television production or is it YouTube production? Is it radio or is it online radio like we're doing here in podcasting? You know, there's a whole evolution. This thing is changing at such a rapid pace. The basic structure is still the same, cameras, lights, microphones, and everything, but the way you tell stories has changed, and too often there's teaching a structure that doesn't even exist anymore here, or that's very outdated. So I agree. I think academia is always struggling. They spend so much effort creating a textbook that they want you to teach that textbook and memorize it. And there's some basics in there, but so much more of it is moving so much quicker than academia can keep up with, which is why centers like the Entrepreneur Center and everything, they're much more in tune with what's really happening today, right now. How do you go get money? How do you keep the ship floating? All that stuff. Right.
So if you haven't already integrated it, how's Chat GTP going to integrate into Nutripair?
He's so on top of these things. I just discovered this last week, this artificial intelligence engine. Hey, write me a paper, a 500-word paper on starting a business. The stuff spits out here.
Yeah, so it has actually been so helpful. And at first I was very skeptical about it, and I actually didn't try it until probably the last month or so, just because I'm like, how good can this thing be? Until I actually tried it for the first time, and it blew me away because I'm a non-technical founder, and I need a way to, this is a hypothetical situation, I need a way to speak to my team of developers and at least communicate on a high level.
Right.
Well, I can now type into ChatGPT how to integrate XYZ into some data structure that we're already using. And it'll give me the bullet point lists of how I can understand it. And it's not code, or if I paste in code, I can ask it to tell me what this code means in English. And it'll tell me. And it has been so crazy because as a founder, those are the things where you're like, wow, maybe I can not need to rely on somebody else for this. Maybe I can do it myself with the help of artificial intelligence.
And marketing. So now you can write marketing pieces in a minute, in a second. Tell me the size of this market. Tell me the number of people who have food allergies. Talk to me about nutritional needs and everything, blah, 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 and it spits all this stuff out. I don't know how it collects it and goes and finds it so quickly here, but it's a compilation of this worldwide database of information and articles, and it puts it together in pretty well-crafted form, storytelling form. So instantly you've got an article, instantly you've got a manual, instantly you've got a discussion piece. I don't know how to discuss this topic with technical people here. Write me a English version of this technical mumbo jumbo here. It'll do it. It's amazing. That's startling.
And when you're ready to launch in the fall, we'll definitely help you with the press release to get the word out. And then we'll probably be able to get Nutripair into a few big websites.
There you go.
Ooh.
He's connected to this stuff here. He's the man. Well, we're out of time. Wrap us up. We're right on time, actually. Give us the website and how to find you and how to invest and all. Give us all the contacts we need to continue the conversation.
Yeah, so to check out more information about Nutripair, you can go to our website. It's nutripair.co. So it's spelled like this, .co. And then that's where you'll find our updated website. Our Instagram is linked on there too. If you want to go directly on Instagram, it's also at nutripair.co. Okay. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can email me at Catlin, so CATLIN .nutripair.co@gmail.com.
And you spell Catlin differently than I would here. So spell your name again, Catlin. Usually C-A-I-T.
Yeah, it's spelled like Catlin. So I was named after a street in Vietnam. That's a whole other story. But it's spelled CATLIN instead of CAITLIN.
Right.
So it's spelled like Catlin.
Because I'm Irish and Caitlin is an Irish name here. So that's why I want to spell it the traditional way. Caitlin's a very old Irish name here. I don't know what.
Well, maybe I am Irish.
Maybe
I don't know.
You could be. You could be a leprechaun. You could have a pot of gold waiting for you here when the show is over here. Anything's possible.
Hopefully.
Let's get you back on the show when you're ready to launch.
Yeah.
And
sounds great.
We'll do your launch for you on OC Talk Radio.
There you go. There you go. We'll love to be part of it.
That'd be so fun.
All right, Dr. Tran, take us out.
All right. Thanks, Caitlin. Great session on Nutripair and the solution that you provide to the health epidemic we have
and the
today.
Third generation of immigrants launching the American dream.
Yeah, and a woman minority entrepreneur.
This is it. Wow. This is the American dream right here on OC Talk Radio.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Caitlin. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks so much for having me. Talk to you soon.
Well, there you have a lot to digest this morning here. The immigrant's journey, the entrepreneurial dream, the power of University of California, Irvine to supplement to support that, and something we all need to support our daily diet and live with the increasing amount of allergies and limits we have in our diet. All that and more this morning on Health Talks with Dr. Tran. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beal Applied Innovation Center.